Relationships are not accidents. Love is not luck. Marriage is not a gamble. Every connection you experience is a reflection of the beliefs you carry within your mind. Your inner thoughts quietly shape who enters your life, how they treat you, and how deeply you bond. Love begins in consciousness. When you believe you are worthy of respect, affection, and loyalty, the universe mirrors that belief through people and experiences. When fear, insecurity, or past pain dominate the mind, those same patterns replay themselves in relationships. Change the inner story, and the outer relationship must change. Sex is not merely physical, it is energetic and emotional. It amplifies whatever belief system you hold. When intimacy is rooted in love, trust, and harmony, it strengthens the bond. When it is driven by fear, loneliness, or validation seeking, it creates confusion and attachment. Sacred intimacy flows from self-respect and emotional clarity. Weddings are not the finish line, they are the beginning of a mental agreement. A marriage thrives when two individuals carry peace, faith, and emotional maturity within themselves. Do not seek someone to complete you. Be complete, and you will attract completeness. The subconscious mind responds to harmony, not desperation. Every challenge in love is an invitation to grow. When conflict arises, do not ask, "Who is wrong?" Ask, "What belief within me is asking to be healed?" As you replace resentment with understanding and fear with trust, relationships transform naturally and effortlessly. Remember this truth: love is not something you chase, it is something you align with. When your thoughts are loving, your expectations are healthy, and your intentions are pure, love finds you, again and again. Every relationship you experience is a living mirror of the thoughts, emotions, and expectations you have quietly accepted as true within yourself. Long before words are spoken or promises are made, the subconscious mind is already at work, selecting patterns that feel familiar rather than what is necessarily healthy. This is why people often find themselves repeating the same relationship story with different faces. The mind is not seeking happiness first, it is seeking consistency with its deepest beliefs. If you believe, even unconsciously, that love requires struggle, sacrifice, or pain, you will naturally attract situations that confirm that belief. The subconscious mind accepts whatever you repeatedly think and feel as a law to be obeyed. It does not argue or judge. It simply expresses those inner assumptions through people, behavior, and circumstances. Change the belief and the relationship experience must also change. When a person carries a deep sense of self-worth, respect, and emotional safety within, they tend to draw partners who reflect those same qualities. This does not happen through effort or manipulation, but through alignment. The inner atmosphere of the mind communicates silently. Others respond to it instinctively. Confidence invites respect. Inner peace invites stability. Emotional wholeness invites mature love. On the other hand, unresolved fear, abandonment, wounds, or feelings of unworthiness often manifest as control, jealousy, or emotional distance in relationships. These patterns are not punishments, they are signals. They reveal where healing is required. The subconscious mind brings these experiences forward so awareness can take place. Once awareness arises, transformation becomes possible. Many people attempt to fix relationships by changing partners, setting rules, or forcing communication, while leaving the inner belief system untouched. This approach only produces temporary results. True change occurs when the inner dialogue changes, when you begin to affirm trust instead of fear, abundance instead of lack, and love instead of rejection. The mind responds to repetition, emotion, and belief. As new assumptions take root, behavior and attraction naturally shift. It is important to understand that no one can make you feel something you have not already accepted internally. Emotional reactions are evidence of inner agreements. When you feel consistently undervalued, it often reflects a belief that your needs are not important. When you feel deeply cherished, it reflects an inner acceptance of love and appreciation. The external world simply confirms what the inner world has already decided. This understanding brings freedom. Instead of blaming others or feeling powerless, you regain authorship over your emotional life. You realize that by nurturing self-respect, emotional honesty, and inner security, relationships improve without force. Love becomes less about control and more about resonance. As you consciously choose thoughts that support harmony, patience, and trust, your subconscious begins to operate from a new blueprint. The people you attract, the way conflicts resolve, and the depth of connection you experience all evolve. Relationships stop being lessons in pain and start becoming expressions of mutual growth. Ultimately, love is not something found outside of you. It is something awakened within. When the inner world changes, the outer relationship follows naturally, faithfully, and inevitably. Love does not begin with another person. It begins with the way you see yourself when no one else is watching. The quality of love you allow into your life is directly connected to the value you place upon your own thoughts, emotions, and presence. When self-worth is missing, love becomes a negotiation. When self-worth is established, love becomes a natural exchange. Many people search endlessly for affection, approval, and validation, believing that another person will supply what feels absent within. Yet the inner mind does not respond to wishing, it responds to identity. When you quietly accept the belief that you are enough, deserving, and whole, your behavior, choices, and boundaries shift effortlessly. You stop chasing love and begin attracting it. Inner alignment occurs when your thoughts, feelings, and actions move in the same direction. When you say you want love but internally expect rejection, confusion follows. When you desire commitment but fear vulnerability, mixed signals are sent. The subconscious mind faithfully acts on the dominant inner expectation, not the spoken desire. Harmony within creates harmony without. A person grounded in self-respect does not tolerate neglect, emotional inconsistency, or disrespect, not through confrontation but through clarity. They naturally gravitate toward experiences that match their inner standard. This is not arrogance, it is emotional maturity. Love flourishes where there is safety, and safety begins with self-trust. When you align internally, relationships no longer feel like performances. You are not pretending to be agreeable to be loved, nor shrinking yourself to avoid loss. Authenticity replaces anxiety. You express needs without fear and listen without defensiveness. This creates emotional intimacy, the foundation of lasting love. Self-worth also influences how you interpret events. A delayed message does not trigger panic. A disagreement does not threaten abandonment. You respond instead of react. This emotional steadiness strengthens connection because it removes pressure. Love grows best in an environment free from fear. Inner alignment does not mean perfection. It means compassion toward yourself. When you forgive your own mistakes and honor your emotional truth, you stop demanding perfection from others. Relationships become spaces of growth, rather than judgment. Two whole individuals meet not to complete each other, but to share completeness. The mind is always listening. When you consistently affirm peace, patience, and self-respect, these qualities shape your expectations and choices. You become selective without being closed, open without being unguarded. Love enters not as chaos, but as calm recognition. As self-worth deepens, love feels familiar rather than dramatic. It is steady, supportive, and expansive. You no longer confuse intensity with intimacy or attachment with devotion. What once felt exciting but unstable loses its appeal, and what once felt too calm reveals itself as genuine. When inner alignment becomes your foundation, love is no longer something you chase, prove, or fear losing. It becomes a reflection of who you are, balanced, grounded, and ready to receive what matches the truth you now live from within. Intimacy is far more than a physical act. It is an exchange of emotional and mental energy. In moments of closeness, the conscious mind relaxes and the deeper layers of the self become receptive. Whatever thoughts, emotions, and beliefs are active within you at that time are intensified and absorbed more deeply. This is why intimacy can either create profound bonding or leave a person feeling confused, empty, or emotionally attached without understanding why. When the mind is calm, loving, and secure, intimacy strengthens connection and trust. It becomes an expression of unity rather than a search for reassurance. In this state, closeness feels nourishing. There is clarity instead of regret, peace instead of anxiety. The experience reinforces positive beliefs about love, safety, and belonging because the subconscious accepts the emotional atmosphere present in that moment. However, when intimacy is driven by fear, loneliness, or the need for validation, those inner states are magnified. Temporary pleasure may occur, but it often leaves behind emotional imbalance. This happens because the deeper mind absorbs the emotional intention behind the act, not just the physical sensation. If the intention is to feel worthy, secure, or less alone, the absence of those feelings afterward becomes more noticeable. Emotional attachment can form rapidly when intimacy occurs without inner clarity. The mind associates closeness with relief, creating dependency rather than connection. This is not weakness, it is the natural functioning of the subconscious seeking consistency and safety. Without awareness, one may confuse intensity with love and attachment with intimacy. Respect for oneself transforms the experience. When intimacy flows from mutual care, trust, and emotional readiness, it enhances confidence and emotional balance. Boundaries are not barriers to connection, they are filters that protect emotional well-being. Saying no when alignment is missing is an act of self-respect, not denial. The emotional state before intimacy often determines the emotional outcome after it. Peace leads to peace. Anxiety leads to heightened anxiety. Love leads to deeper love. Understanding this truth brings responsibility, not restriction. It allows you to choose closeness consciously rather than impulsively. Intimacy also reinforces beliefs about relationships. If you believe closeness leads to abandonment, that belief may surface as insecurity or withdrawal afterward. If you believe closeness is safe and nurturing, it strengthens trust. The body remembers what the mind accepts. This awareness encourages emotional honesty. It invites you to ask not only, do I desire this? But also, what am I feeling within? When desire aligns with emotional clarity, intimacy becomes empowering rather than draining. Ultimately, intimacy is a creative force. It has the power to heal, bond, and uplift, or to confuse and entangle. When approached with self-awareness and emotional integrity, it becomes an expression of inner balance rather than a reaction to inner lack. In this way, closeness supports growth, connection, and emotional harmony rather than undermining them. A lasting union is not built on need, fear, or emotional reliance. It is built on stability within each individual. When two people enter a lifelong partnership seeking completion, they unknowingly place a heavy burden on one another. No person can consistently supply identity, happiness, or purpose for another. Expecting this creates pressure, disappointment, and imbalance. True partnership begins when both individuals arrive whole, not empty. Inner peace creates emotional steadiness. A person who is secure within themselves does not constantly seek reassurance, control outcomes, or fear loss at every disagreement. They bring calm into conversations, patience into conflict, and clarity into decisions. This emotional balance allows challenges to be addressed without escalating into power struggles or emotional withdrawal. Dependency often disguises itself as devotion. It may appear as constant togetherness, emotional intensity, or fear of independence, but beneath it lies insecurity. When one partner feels responsible for the emotional state of the other, resentment slowly forms. Love thrives on freedom, not obligation. Stability grows when both individuals maintain a sense of self while choosing to walk together. When inner peace is present, communication becomes honest rather than defensive. Needs are expressed without accusation, and listening occurs without the urge to fix or dominate. Disagreements become moments of understanding instead of threats to the relationship. This does not eliminate conflict, but it changes its purpose, from destruction to growth. A balanced partnership allows space for individuality. Dreams, friendships, and personal growth are not viewed as threats, but as strengths that enrich the union. Two grounded individuals bring expansion into the relationship rather than limitation. The bond becomes a place of support, not confinement. Emotional responsibility is key. Each person must be accountable for their own reactions, moods, and healing. Blaming a partner for inner discomfort weakens the bond. When individuals take responsibility for their emotional world, the relationship becomes lighter and more cooperative. Love feels chosen each day, not demanded. Security within also affects trust. When you trust yourself, you are less likely to project fear onto your partner. You do not interpret distance as rejection or silence as abandonment. This trust creates safety, and safety deepens intimacy. The relationship becomes a refuge rather than a battlefield. A strong union is not two halves clinging together, it is two complete individuals sharing life. Commitment then becomes an expression of love, not a strategy for survival. The partnership grows resilient, adaptable, and enduring because it is rooted in emotional maturity. When peace exists within both partners, the union reflects that harmony. Support replaces dependence. Choice replaces fear. Love becomes a steady presence rather than an emotional roller coaster. In this way, a lifelong partnership flourishes, not because it is needed, but because it is genuinely desired. Disagreement is not a sign that something is broken, it is a sign that something unseen is asking for attention. When tension arises between two people, the instinctive reaction is often to assign fault, defend one's position, or demand change from the other. Yet conflict does not originate in words or actions alone, it emerges from unmet emotional needs, unexamined beliefs, and unresolved inner wounds seeking expression. Every emotional reaction carries information. Anger points to a crossed boundary, hurt reveals an unhealed expectation, defensiveness signals fear of being misunderstood or rejected. These reactions are not flaws, they are messages. When ignored, they repeat. When understood, they transform. The outer disagreement becomes a doorway to inner awareness. Blame creates distance because it shifts focus outward. It attempts to fix the surface while leaving the root untouched. Even if one wins an argument, the emotional pattern remains. Healing begins when responsibility is reclaimed, not for another person's behavior, but for one's own inner response. This shift changes everything. The moment awareness replaces accusation, growth becomes possible. Many conflicts are echoes of earlier experiences. A present argument may awaken feelings formed long before the current relationship existed. The mind responds not only to what is happening now but to what feels familiar. Recognizing this allows compassion to replace judgment, both toward oneself and the other person. When approached with curiosity instead of defense, tension softens. Questions such as, "Why does this affect me so deeply?" or "What belief is being challenged right now?" open the path to understanding. This inward attention disarms the emotional charge. Communication becomes clearer because it is no longer fueled by unconscious fear. Taking responsibility does not mean accepting mistreatment. It means responding from clarity rather than reaction. Boundaries can be set without hostility. Truth can be spoken without attack. When inner stability guides expression, conversations become constructive rather than destructive. Conflict also reveals growth opportunities within the relationship. It highlights differences in needs, values, and communication styles. When both individuals are willing to reflect inwardly, disagreement becomes a tool for strengthening connection rather than weakening it. Trust deepens when both feel heard and respected. Avoiding conflict does not create peace, understanding it does. Suppressed emotions eventually surface in resentment or withdrawal. Addressed emotions, however, lose their power. Awareness transforms intensity into insight. Each moment of tension invites healing, not just between two people, but within oneself. As inner wounds are acknowledged and beliefs are refined, the same conflicts lose their grip. What once triggered emotional chaos becomes a moment of calm understanding. In this way, tension is not an enemy of love but a messenger. When listened to with honesty and compassion, it guides relationships toward greater emotional maturity, balance, and lasting connection. What you consistently think, feel, and expect creates an invisible atmosphere around you. This inner atmosphere quietly communicates your emotional state long before words are spoken or actions are taken. Others respond to it instinctively. When your inner world is calm, confident, and trusting, it invites experiences that match that state. Love, in this sense, is not pursued. It is drawn in through alignment. Many people desire meaningful connection while internally rehearsing fear, doubt, or disappointment. The subconscious mind does not act on wishes, it acts on dominant assumptions. If expectations are rooted in loss or rejection, relationships tend to reflect those themes. When expectations shift towards safety, respect, and mutual growth, the emotional tone of relationships changes accordingly. Alignment occurs when thoughts, emotions, and beliefs move in harmony. Saying you want love while believing it is hard to maintain creates resistance. Wanting closeness while fearing vulnerability sends mixed signals. The inner mind responds to coherence. When your inner dialogue supports what you desire, attraction becomes effortless rather than forced. Healthy love often feels calm, not chaotic. This calmness can feel unfamiliar to those accustomed to emotional intensity. When the inner world stabilizes, drama loses its appeal. You no longer confuse excitement with anxiety or attachment with connection. What remains is clarity, a sense of recognition rather than pursuit. Trust in oneself plays a central role. When you trust your own judgment and worth, you make choices aligned with your values. You naturally avoid situations that compromise emotional well-being. This discernment protects harmony and allows compatible relationships to enter without resistance. Inner alignment also affects patience. You no longer rush connections out of fear of being alone. Time becomes an ally rather than an enemy. This patience allows relationships to unfold organically, revealing truth without pressure. Authentic bonds grow slowly but endure deeply. As inner beliefs shift, behavior changes subtly, body language softens, communication becomes clearer. Boundaries form naturally. These changes are felt by others even if they cannot be explained. The right connections feel easy, while misaligned ones fade without struggle. Love responds to emotional consistency. When peace, self-respect, and openness become your inner norm, relationships reflecting chaos or imbalance no longer resonate. You stop attracting what contradicts your inner state because it no longer feels familiar. This process is not about control or strategy, it is about congruence. As you nurture inner harmony, the external world mirrors it. Love arrives not as a solution to emptiness, but as a companion to wholeness. In this way, connection becomes a reflection rather than a pursuit. When inner alignment is maintained, love appears naturally, steady, supportive, and in harmony with who you truly are.